So Abby Jimenez is really asking the important questions here, such as, what if dementia and financial ruin, but also romantic? For the record, I'm going to speak in generalizations for the first few minutes, and then I'll go into spoilers. So I'll let you know when the spoilers start. So if you're just looking for a general, like, should I read this book? That's what the first part of this review is going to be. And then we'll go into spoilers for those of you who have already read it or people who just like spoilers. So to start, should you read this book? Yes, if you have liked Part of Your World, Yours Truly, and Just for the Summer, you will like this book too. It is very much in that kind of modern romantic style of everybody has abusive parents and trauma. And for some reason, we're very into Minnesota and Michigan and the general North and Lake area of the country. And a lot of romance novels I've been reading for some reason, not sure why. Will you like the main characters? So Samantha is a marketing remote person for a mustard company, and she's very good at it because she knows how to be very online, and there's a lot of chronically online references in the book. And then our hero is a vet and is constantly compared to Ryson from ACOTAR. So if you're looking for that crossover event, Abby Jimenez has got you. The general plot is, what if there are two people who are perfect for each other, but then just logistics gets in the way, which I actually think is a great plot for a romance novel, because sometimes it is a little bit like, I don't want the relationship to be complicated. I want two people who like each other. We're not worried about cheating. We're not worried about like, will they, won't they? There are no exes or love triangles or anything like that. There's no threat to the main pair except their lives, like the general logistics of how will they have a functioning relationship. Does it count as a spoiler if it happens right at the beginning? It's kind of a twist. Is it in the dust jacket? That's going to be how I can tell. So pause. Okay, so in the dust jacket, it just says her family is in crisis. So I will stick to that's what it is too for this no spoiler part of the review. So her family is in a health crisis. And so it is impossible for them to be together right at that moment. And they have to basically both come to a decision about how are they going to fit their lives together in a way that works. And it's a really good premise for a novel. I really appreciated that it wasn't dramatic in the sense that they were two people who didn't really want to be together, because I kind of like it when the romantic leads just want to be together and it's not more complicated than that. I personally do not like when people have animus towards each other or always fighting. And while like enemies to lovers can be fun, if we're in the real world instead of say in a romantasy world, like I kind of want people just to get along. Otherwise it feels like abuse really quick. But this is a very non-abusive, non-threatening relationship. Even the family, I would say, kind of fits into that mold where it's sort of just a normal family trying to traverse a really complicated situation, but everybody has pretty good intentions. That's your idea of a good time. And you don't mind a little bit of medical crisis in your novel. I think this is a pretty good one to read. I think you won't be disappointed. Abby Jimenez is a very easy author to read. I think total read time was like 6 hours for me. So that is going to be our non-spoiler part of the review. Let's move on to the spoiler part of the review, which is, oh goodness, there's a lot of dementia in here, isn't there, with the mom. That part is hard. From the start of the novel, we have the meet cute with Samantha and Xavier. He's a vet. She has a kitten that needs a butthole. He recommends she put down the kitten. She says, no, I'm going to go fund this kitten its butthole surgery. And sure enough, she's able to do that. They're immediately attracted to each other when she takes the kitten back for a checkup. They go on a date. It's a great date. Then they basically are in love after the first date. Though I will say, if I have any complaint about this novel, it's a little bit that Xavier feels like he is 100% in immediately. He just like looks at Samantha the first time and he's like, you. And that's that for him. And while that is kind of like a romantic thing to be like, oh, it's true love, they want each other from the very beginning, it also felt kind of like he was devoted immediately and there was nothing else. And sometimes I find that a little bit too unrealistic for me. It would be nice if he maybe knew something about her personality or a little bit more about her before he is head over heels in love. That what I like about the date that they go on is they both have chances to really shine as good people and do things for each other, and they get along really well. They have a lot of good banter. Then obviously Samantha's going to drop the bomb here, which is that her mom has dementia. She is moving from Minnesota to California, and they will not be able to pursue this relationship because who wants to do long distance? Well, Xavier does, because he cannot forget Samantha. So he flies out to California. They continue to really bond over the course of this weekend, and they realize, we need to just be in a relationship because it's clear that we're going to be miserable no matter what, even if we're not together. So they try and make it work. They do the long distance thing. And it's this very back and forth of they know they want to be together, but they can only maybe spend 20 days together within a year. And he has to work all the time. And financial security is a really huge theme in this book, where Xavier's a vet. He has built this practice. It's super in debt, as is normal for a small business when it's first starting out. So he needs to work and put every bit of money that he can into his business. So he can't really afford to fly off to California whenever. Whereas Samantha has a job that presumably is paying pretty well. And at first it's just her mom that's kind of this conflict situation for her. But then she and her siblings take out this home equity loan to do this refurbishment from the house. And that sort of, to me, felt like the author was just trying to have a reason why Samantha couldn't afford to be flying out to Minnesota all the time, which is fine. I understand that we're trying to create tension here. And then she loses her job and she doesn't have the money to go and visit him at all. So the financial strain on the relationship is really this pressure point. And by the end of the book, Xavier's like, I guess I'll go bankrupt then if I have to, because it's more important that we're together than I have financial security and make good financial decisions. And that was hard for me as the type A person. I'm like, no, make good financial decisions. Don't risk your credit. But in any case, there's this financial component, which is kind of one of the driving features of why they can't be together. And then it's her mom's dementia. And what I really like is that at no point is it ever on the table for her to not take care of her mom. There is some conversation about long-term memory care, which I think is a really fair conversation. Is pretty elegantly done for a romance novel. At what point do you put somebody into long-term care or assisted living, especially with memory issues where they don't recognize you anymore? Are they really happier at home, or does it make any difference if they're at home? Should they be in these cares? Can you really take care of somebody long-term without having a nurse or home health assistance? And then you've got the rates that home health or in-home assistance would cost versus long-term care. But if you can't afford that, you become a ward of the state, and then the state's paying for it. And there's some pretty bad long-term care situations if you're a ward of the state. So all of that being in there actually is really interesting. And I really appreciated actually the delicacy the author used when discussing it, because these people in this book are very realistically burned out by having to be full-time caretakers of the mother with dementia. And she isn't easy for them to deal with, but they love her. And this being a witness to somebody's life and to their memories and to what they meant to you is really well done too, because the reason that these siblings, because Samantha's siblings are a huge part of this book, and so is her dad, they're all there taking care of the mom in this one big house, and the grandma's there too, but then she passes away. That's also really difficult. They're having to figure out what long-term care realistically looks like for their family, and that's not an easy answer. And the constraints on time, on burnout, just always being on for somebody and figuring out that balance within a family. Is it realistic for this family to take that on? That's all really well done. What I found less well done was the dealing with the financial burden of how is Xavier going to move to California to be with Samantha? Because the answer that he pretty much comes up with is, I'm going to find a way to move. And he was willing to go bankrupt. He does not have to go bankrupt by the end, which is kind of a relief. That almost gave me an anxiety feeling of no, don't go bankrupt. But he does not go bankrupt. I think that the purpose of that was supposed to say that if it's true love, then that's the most important thing. And if this is a question about time, which say you'll remember me, it's all about time. It's about memory and time. Don't you want to spend it with the people that you love? Don't you want to be with your true love? And of course, the answer to that is yes, you want to be with your true love. I'm not convinced that this is how in real life this conversation would go, but he manages to not go bankrupt, and that's great. So we move on. That was probably the stickiest thing for me. I could not lose myself in the romance of that decision because I guess I'm too practical for that. But what I also did like is, Samantha did not have trauma from her family, which these Abby Jimenez books, and it's the same thing with Emily Henry books too, frankly, there's just always a lot of trauma, and it feels very therapy and therapized throughout, where you're just thinking the whole time, man, we've got issues, don't we? We gotta deal with these. But Samantha does not have internal issues with her family for the most part. It seems like kind of normal family stuff. That was kind of refreshing that she didn't. And then with Xavier, he did, and it was discussed, but it wasn't, maybe he had actually come to terms with a lot of it ahead of time. And if his parents were abusive and narcissistic and all these other things, he obviously leans on Samantha for support at different points in the novel when his parents come up. But at no point do I ever feel like he is overly traumatized to an extreme point. Sometimes the trauma of it all feels like it takes over the narrative, whereas here it just felt like something that a grown man had to deal with a little bit more, and he had a supportive girlfriend while dealing with it, which for me, I actually liked. That felt much more real to life instead of kind of this persistent background anxiety, perhaps, that someone could be going through. But maybe this is also the difference between a female versus a male lead in a romance novel, because female leads, it seems like when they have parental trauma, it does seem like it takes over their character a little bit. And then with the male leads, I guess it isn't sexy to have a male lead who's consumed by trauma. Maybe that's why he seemed to have a better hold of it, because it's still supposed to be a wish fulfillment fantasy, right? And that's a whole conversation about trauma and gender roles, which I'm not prepared to have. In any case, I read it really quickly. It took me 6 hours spread out over an evening and a morning. So I think that if you're a fan of Abby Jimenez, you will probably really like this. I would rank it as better than Part of Your World and on the same level as yours truly. I would probably still give the edge to Just for the Summer as far as which Abby Jimenez books I've liked the most. But really, the top three are really tight as far as which ones I've liked the most. Like yours truly, Just for the Summer, and Say You'll Remember Me are all really solid, 4.5-star books for me. Yeah, so that's the new release. I can't believe that I'm gonna have a review out about it so quickly. Look at me, reading current novels in a current time that is speedy. So thank you so much for watching this review. If you have any thoughts about Say You'll Remember Me, please drop them in the comments. And I'll see you for the next review, which I think will be Sunrise on the Reaping. So see you then. Bye.